we will go over and visit Dylan. And is this my friend Dylan in Florida?
This is your friend Dylan in Florida.
Fantastic.
Good
How are
morning.
you doing today?
We're doing great. It's it's like the Amazon down here in the summertime, so we're all just hiding out in our air-conditioned concrete bunkers and letting the tourists have the state. So come on down, and we value family, community, and your vacation dollars.
That takes care of the taxes. Dylan, what can I help with today?
Got a 2009 Honda Odyssey. You and I have talked about this a little bit before. I had replaced the power steering pump with a used Honda power steering pump because it was making a lot of noise.
Mm-hmm.
I've replaced those gasket seals, the O-ring seals. I've replaced the power steering reservoir, which actually was gunked up at one point, that silkscreen filter.
Mm-hmm.
And this pump is back to making more noise than I like again. And I guess my question is this just what comes with the age of a vehicle, or is this making too much noise? Do I need to replace the pump? How is air getting into the system and causing this noise? If it is, I'm just trying to troubleshoot this again.
Well, I do know that O-ring that I mentioned to you, there's actually a bulletin on that, and that gives me a chance to mention to people the difference between a bulletin and a technical bulletin and a recall. A lot of times when I say the word bulletin, somebody thinks, well, that's free, then I can take it back and get it done free. But a bulletin, it just means it's an item issued from the manufacturer saying, hey, we've had some problems with these over a certain amount of time, and if your car is doing this, and this, it might be this or this. And, of course, in your case, we looked it up, and it had to do with a special O-ring on the line that goes to the pump. We've ran into a fair amount of those that made it to where it would make the whining noise when you first crank the vehicle up, because it would pull air in and aerate the fluid and make the whining noise. But you've already, and if I'm not mistaken, you did put the factory O-ring on that. Is that right?
I did get Honda O-rings, yeah.
Okay, good. So if you did that, and I'm assuming without question your power steering fluid is at the full mark.
Yeah, it's between the high and the low. It's not at the full, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And does it have the noise all the time, or just when it's cold, or just when it's hot?
It does. It seems to have it all the time. I mean, we're out on the highway. We're not hearing a constant droning sound, but you're not really turning much out there anyway.
Okay, so it changes when you turn the steering wheel. You can actually hear the pump making the noise as you're moving the wheel, or it does it all the time?
Yeah, it's louder when you're moving the wheel, but when you first crank up the vehicle, you can definitely hear a groaning sound.
You just want to isolate and be absolutely sure that you are up against a power steering type noise, because many times you'll listen and you'll say, well, it's coming from that area. It sounds just like the power steering pump. And it turned out to be a pulley or something different on the front of the vehicle making the noise. But if you move the steering wheel, and I know you kind of know how to identify stuff like that pretty well. So if you're moving the steering wheel and you hear it change tones and you hear it coming from that, high probability that it is. Many times I do like to use a stethoscope on the system to isolate it and make absolutely sure that it is that. But again, moving the wheel, changing tones lets me know that it probably is. So with that, is this loud enough to where you can actually sit in the vehicle and hear the noise?
Yeah, if you're sitting in there and like I said, you crank it up. You can sit there and hear a low sound that you haven't heard before.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to describe those sounds. You guys, you mechanics might all have a book that describes all these.
Well, actually, it's a recording. You're able to, you click on different noises and it tells you on there. But I'm gonna mention one thing that I would look at very closely, Dylan, and that's to make sure that that the power steering line is not close to anything, especially things to do with the body. Because if that power steering line, you have a certain amount of vibration through that line anyway because you got fluid going through there. And if that line is really close to anything on the body, that can make sort of like a humming type noise. Now, it won't normally make a whining noise, but it will. You will be something you can kind of almost feel through the car, and that changes when you turn the wheel because, of course, the pressure through that line changes a lot when you do that. So I would make sure that the line is
Mhm.
routed correctly, not touching or close to anything to do with the body. After that, I know what I would probably be doing if it was mine. I would go ahead and just for the heck of it, move the fluid all the way to the total full mark with the engine warm. Just let it go all the way to the full, and then after that, I believe I would monitor it. I'm not sure unless it's loud. Then that way, as time goes on, I would be able to be sure was it the pump itself doing that, and I would know if it is going to get louder. I mean, if it just stays the same for a long, long period of time and it's not getting any worse, it's very seldom that a power steering pump goes out and causes a problem on the road. But if it's getting down to where it is bothering you, high probability it would be the pump itself.